I had a teacher when I was in high school. I'll never forget it. It was in ninth grade. And he told us, he said, you have to be great in the world at one thing. You don't have to be like school. I remember him saying school is very different from real life, right? In school, to be successful, you have to be great at multiple things, right? Math, science, ELA, social studies, art, music, phys ed, foreign language. I mean, I just rattled off 8 without thinking, right? In real life, you have to be great at one. You know, when's the last time you went to the dentist and said, tell me about the War of 1812? No, I'm not opening until you show me how to diagram a sentence. Like, I don't care what you do, like clean my teeth and do it right. Right. And or you fly the airplane I'm on, get me up and get me down and do it in the right place. I don't really care what else you know how to do in the world. Right. And I think sometimes, and so what happens for a lot of kids is the world really opens up to them. The world becomes a better, again, I'm an example of a person like that, where for me, school was hard because I'm disorganized and I can't find things and I lose things and when you're really disorganized, school can be a hard place. And so, right. But when you get in the world and you're like, oh, wait, I only have to be great at like 1 or 2 things. Cool. I think I could do that. Right. And then you get focused on what those 1 or 2 things are. And that's why the phrase gifted and talented has always kind of gotten to me, because I think there are people in the world that are more gifted and more talented than other people. But I also believe that everybody has gifts and talents. And like sometimes you just have to look harder to find them. But when you start to label people a certain way, it's very easy for people to believe, well, they didn't put me in the gifted and talented class, so I must not be that, right? And that's the quickest way to give up. The quickest way in general to give up is to not be successful, right? So think of it. I always say in my seminars, I teach a concept where and John, if you have this slide, the success slide, but think of it like a triangle, right? And there's success is at the top of the triangle, and the point to the right is competence, right? Because success breeds competence. We become successful, we start to become competent. Once we become competent, we start to have confidence. There it is, right? Think about so you can see that cycle. Think about a little ball that spins between those 3 words. Because those 3 words breed each other. They're breeders of each other. Once I have success, I start to feel confident, which makes me more successful, which gives me more confidence, which makes me more confident. And the thing about this cycle is there are a lot of kids that we work with who have never tasted any of these 3. They don't know what success is because they've never really had it. They don't know what competence is because they've never really been good at anything. And because they've never had success, and in their mind, they've never been good at anything, then they totally lack confidence. And I think sometimes as an educator, it's really powerful to, metaphorically, of course, shove a kid into that cycle and make them feel one of those things. And I think the easiest one to make them feel is success, because we can rig things, right? Like you can do an open book, open note test or quiz, or like I would do things where, I would say you get a 5x7 or 4x6 note card, cram as many notes on it as you want. You get to use that on your test, right? Like the goal, making you successful and understanding that once I do that, that's going to lead to these other things. And once you become those other things, it starts to just become this amazing cycle. And the thing is, I speak about myself because, most of my life, personally, I believe that I lived not in that cycle. But the last probably 5 years as a professional, I've been in that cycle. And once you're in it, it's hard to be stopped. Like you just start to roll. And good things start to happen, because of your belief and your confidence and your, all 3 of those things. And so getting kids to focus on that and teachers to, and this was, I think this was a year, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was a year where, there were more kids, at least from what I was hearing, that were failing early on than in most any other years. And when you have a lot of kids failing early on, that's a bad situation, right? Because now, right, when kids go down, they don't go alone. They take other people down with them. And if that's starting early on in the school year, you're in big trouble. So success has to come first. And the thing, the last thing I'll say is about this is we know this in every aspect of our lives, really, right? Like, and if you look at like what you do with kids. I mean, when, you know, my kids play sports, or my daughter, they play t-ball. We put the ball on a tee. That's not baseball, but we do it anyway. Why? Because we know the kid needs to feel success. They got to hit the ball. Then there's graduation to underhand coach pitch, but you're not actually trying to throw a strike. If you're the coach, you're literally trying to hit the bat, right? Because you're like, wow, I need the kid to be successful. And then there's graduation from that to overhand done the same way. And then if you do it right, and I use baseball, fill in whatever you want. I don't care if it's dance or it's art or it's music. Eventually that day comes if you do it properly, where you go out back, right? And you were going to do it the same way you always did it, except all of a sudden your kid looks at you and they're like, no, mom, no, dad, no, coach, back up, throw it harder. I know I could hit it. You're not throwing it hard enough. Throw it harder, right? Give me more math problems, teacher. Give me a little bit more reading, teacher. Give me a little bit more, right? But not if success didn't come first. And, you know, we know that in so many aspects, but, you know, what happens sometimes in school is we got some teachers throwing 90-mile-an-hour fastballs at the kid, and the kid's like, bro, I never played t-ball. Right. And they're just getting peppered by these fastballs going, right. And there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide.